Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. Let's see if I can get centered here. Yay, here we go. I want to show you guys something before we get started, and for some reason my Restream chat isn't working. Let me hit reload on here. Okay, now that chat is working. But I want to have my normal chat up. There we go. Remember, this is a participatory show. But look what I found. It's these whiskey fire shots that are vanilla and cinnamon whiskey. If any of you guys know me well, you know two things I love in life are vanilla and cinnamon whiskey. So, here we go. Today certainly has been a day with virtue signalers in the LP, hasn't it? And people purposely misrepresenting and deciding to not try to understand what someone else is actually saying. But I suppose that is par for the course for the LP. But it is truly embarrassing when there is LNC members who are doing such things. But you want to know what? Being embarrassing seems to be the only thing that the LNC is good at right now. I do think some people in the LNC need to learn a little bit about religious tolerance and learn a little bit more about the wide divergence of religious beliefs that there are in this country. And I say this as a religious person, but most religious beliefs have a bit of kookiness to them. They're not entirely rational. That's why they're faith, and that's why they're religious. You tell somebody who's never heard the story of Christianity before that one Jewish guy living in Palestine a couple thousand years ago dies, and all of a sudden that means everyone gets to go to heaven. Well, depends on what you believe. Okay, I guess I just gave a universalist belief, but that a certain number of people, or however you define it, that it earns entrance. That sounds kooky. That sounds kooky. And when it comes to people's religious beliefs, I think, a lot are kooky, including some of my own. And if they're not imposing them by force, that, then I don't care, to be honest with you. I don't care. And I thought we weren't supposed to have religious litmus tests in this country. And it's really embarrassing to me to see that there are such things as religious litmus tests. We're doing this before we go to LP Time Capsule. Now, I'm a very liberal Christian. Most Christians don't even think I'm a Christian. So I'm trying to come up with some really conservative Christian beliefs here that I might not necessarily hold, but I would have held at one time. People who... I can't even think of something. But okay, I used to be a Calvinist. And Calvinists believe in a predestination, a certain type of compatibilistic predestination, meaning that, man has choices as to what he does, but he really can't do differently because God has already predestined him to do different things. So if that means that God has already known that a certain person, I'm not a Calvinist anymore, by the way. If I had to describe my soteriological beliefs, it would be Molinism. Again, I went from Arminianism to Calvinism to Molinism. No, excuse me. Arminianism to Molinism to Calvinism back to Molinism. But unlike the caricature of Calvinists by non-Calvinists, just because God knows that somebody is predestined to be a murderer doesn't make them a murder apologist. And you can call somebody's religious beliefs completely wacky, but please represent them properly. And I grew up with a lot of New Age people. And a lot of New Agers believe, and we're talking about the type of New Agers because New Age is also very, very varied. And a lot of New Agers believe that in the waiting room between lives, I don't believe in reincarnation, so it's difficult for me to explain. But in this reincarnational waiting room before life, there are a lot of New Agers who believe you choose what you examine your character and decide that you will be able to grow by experiencing X. This is not an unusual belief. And let's say you were someone in the afterlife. And again, I'm trying to explain something I don't believe, so I'm probably doing a very terrible job of it. But I'm just trying to show how misrepresenting people purposely makes you a disgusting person. And let's say that I'm this reincarnated person, and maybe I was a queen, a very pampered queen in my last life, and I decided that made my character lacking in some way, so I decided to come back as somebody who lived on the streets and experienced all kinds of lack and poverty, and say I even got routinely beat up by street thugs. Does that make the street thugs no longer guilty of beating up an innocent homeless woman? No. I don't know what kind of sheltered life some people in this party have lived in that they've never encountered New Age beliefs like that. Now, do I think they are wacky? Yes, I do. I think they're kooky as hell. But I don't misrepresent what people believe. And I'm just really appalled that we are having religious litmus tests in this party. I don't get it. I don't get it. And I just find that really, really disgusting. Because it used to be in mainstream politics that you had to be a religious person, and they used to have sexuality tests. If you were gay, you couldn't possibly get into office because that would be embarrassing. And thank whatever God you believe or don't believe in, or gods that you believe or don't believe in, that mostly isn't the case anymore. It needs to even be less the case. But like we saw with, who was that Supreme Court Justice? The lady, I'm sorry, I'm really bad with names, who was of what's considered a fringe group in Catholicism. She was a charismatic Catholic, which is really strange to me. And everyone was going after her for her religious beliefs. Did I think they were kooky? Yeah. Everyone used to go after Mitt Romney. Do I think Mormonism has some kooky beliefs? Absolutely. Do I think that has shit all to do with their libertarianism? No. I don't. In fact, there's a lot of great libertarian Mormons. So, could we stop mischaracterizing people's wacky religious beliefs? And if you think that because they're a candidate that they're going to come back to embarrass the party, that says more about you being embarrassed. You should just say somebody's personal religious beliefs are their own business. I do not care if someone comes home and I'm trying to think of some weird idol. They have an idol to Justin Bieber in their basement, and they go in their basement every night and lay prostrate before this idol of Justin Bieber and, bring him offerings of milk and honey. Do I think that is barking moonbat material for a religious belief? Yes, as long as they're not forcing me to do it. Or what if, they had some belief that Nickelback is the greatest band in the world? I mean, I could think of a lot of kooky things. Go after people for their actual political beliefs and not their wacky religious beliefs. I am truly, truly ashamed of what some people, including some LNC members, are doing in this party. And do these kooky religious beliefs, because I'm not bringing up a specific example because I think everyone knows what I'm talking about and I don't need to bring more attention to it. And if you don't know, count yourself blessed. Do those particular religious beliefs make me uncomfortable? Yeah, they do. But so do a lot of religious beliefs make me uncomfortable. As long as they ain't trying to force them on me, I don't care. And if we're worried about normies being embarrassed by them, do you realize how embarrassing libertarianism is to normies? And you're going to be persecuting people for having wacky religious beliefs? Why aren't we modeling tolerance and just saying, you know what? I think that's a bit wacky, but believe what you want. If it doesn't pick my pocket or stop my freedom, what do I care? And that's why, even though I know she's no friend to free speech and liberty, I defended Whoopi Goldberg today. She just had a point of view. What Whoopi Goldberg said wasn't anti-Semitic. Maybe it was ignorant of history. A lot of us are ignorant of history. Even I, who study LP history, I learned something new the other day, from all people, from Will McVeigh, where he showed me that a certain platform statement that I didn't think had ever been in the platform before 2008 was actually in there in 1976. I didn't know that. I was grateful to learn something new. And then I informed him that it got removed in 1978 and we had a mutually beneficial educational exchange. But I'm just really ashamed at some of you people. And particularly some of the people that are engaging in this are members of the LGBTQ community. And you don't remember how you used to be persecuted? Or if you might not have had that personally happen to you, how not too long ago? The way Harvey Milk was completely vilified for being a gay man? Yet you turn around and do things like that to other people? Shame on you. Absolutely shame on you. And very few people want to stand up and say anything, but you want to know something? I ain't a coward. I ain't a coward. And people go, oh, don't say that. It'll cost you votes. My integrity is more important than any vote ever. No matter what happens, LNC terms come and go in 2 years. But you want to know what I have to do every single day of my life? I have to get up in the morning and look myself in the mirror. Now, this is supposed to be a history podcast, but this dealt with a little bit of history, I guess, the history of religious litmus tests and things like that in politics. I think we as libertarians should be modeling tolerance. You know how many times I've been told I will embarrass the party if I run for office because I have pink hair? Why aren't we modeling that it's not the color of your hair, but the content of your character? If I may, borrow a phrase from a great man. Some of you people really have a problem. Now, onto the grifting. Going from religion into grifting. I can make all kinds of jokes there. If you don't buy me a multi-billion-dollar jet, God's going to kill me. Some of you will get that joke. It's the beginning of the month. And guess what happens at the beginning of the month? People look at their finances and go, oh shit, I've got to cancel some subscriptions because life is tough. Life is tough. Oh, and I see JJ said transubstantiation. I do not believe in transubstantiation, and I do think that is wacky as hell. Yep, I think that's wacky as hell. And I think if you're somebody who had never heard that before, we've grown up in a Christian culture, so some Catholic or even, I consider Catholics to be Christian. Oh no, I just offended a bunch of Christians who don't think Catholics are Christians. That Christian belief, if you'd never heard it before, you would think that was crazy. You would think that was absolutely crazy. That some little piece of bread, because it gets blessed by a priest, turns into some literal flesh that you're eating. Sounds like cannibalism. Can you imagine if we started vilifying every single Catholic that runs, saying that they're a cannibal or a cannibal apologist? You're just looking for a reason to think you are superior to another person. Oh, Daniel tweet, Molinism is very, very interesting. I know there's I would have a whole show talking about Molinism, but to me it makes a lot of sense. So I'm glad I introduced you to something new. I've always been interested in just the theories of the butterfly effect and things like that. And for those of you who we're really just, me, I ramble. We'll get to the history. But for those of you who don't know what Molinism is, and I probably will not explain this well because I haven't done formal theology in a while, but it's basically, it considers itself kind of the way Libertarianism considers itself like the perfect mix of left and right. Molinism kind of considers itself the perfect mix of Arminianism and Calvinism. But it posits that God predestined by actualizing a particular world. Like God was able to view all of the possible interactions that could possibly happen. Like if I put person A with this personality in situation B, all of these circumstances will inevitably take place. And he looks at all the possible worlds that he could create, and he created the one that led to where you are now. So while you do have free choice, it is predestined in a way because God created a world in which he knew that all of the environmental factors around you would make a certain choice. So anyway, it gets complicated, but it deals with contingencies and possible worlds versus actual worlds. And it was coined by a Catholic, a Jesuit by the name of Luis de Molina, and that's where Molinism comes from. The most famous proponent of Molinism today is William Lane Craig. A lot of people do not know he's a Molinist, and he's a very famous Christian apologist, a very, very good Christian apologists. And the last of the libertarians said, I believe Christianity is inherently incompatible with libertarianism, though this does not mean we should throw Christians out of the party. Rather, use libertarian ethics to argue for atheism. And I don't think it's incompatible, but I agree with your statement as far as like the underlying thought behind it. You don't have these weird religious litmus tests that people are doing today with a candidate who happens to have, to most people, a very bizarre religious belief. But to claim that that religious belief is racist in some way is just fucking ridiculous. And there's something wrong with you people. You just need to feel like you're better than somebody else. Now, if we're going to get into the another edgelord type tweets of another candidate, nope, I don't care for those tweets. I've said it before. But I also had said, if you spent half as much time going out and doing something actually productive rather than worrying about what a candidate from another state is tweeting, we would be freer today. But no, virtue signal on Facebook. Way to spread liberty, Mr. Longstreth. All right. Oh, back to the grifting. You guys let me forget my grifting. I need a tissue. I'm about to sneeze. I think there's pollen in the air. We had 9 inches of snow yesterday. Not that it had anything to do with pollen. It's the beginning of the month, so some people, and actually less than most months, have had to put their subscriptions on pause. Actually, I think both people who had to let me know ahead of time, listen, I'm having a little bit of trouble with bills right now. I'm going to resubscribe later, but unfortunately, I have to cut out all the non-essentials. So please, if you've considered before and you're in a financial circumstance to do it, please consider supporting the show. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it, and that truly, if we're going to stop doing religious litmus tests, this is, in fact, actual real-life libertarian action is voluntary support. Also, in the bottom there, I have, 9 inches is a lot of pollen. That's what she said. In the low bar on YouTube, there is also an Amazon wish list. I don't promote this a lot, but I'm going to put something new on the wish list. I'll let you know. Some of you, if you want to bless me, some of you may know I have something called a Stream Deck. If you've never seen this and you are a YouTuber, this thing is fantastic. It lets you do shortcut keys to like move to sound effects and things like that. It's kind of like a master board, like the things you can do in your home studio now. They make a foot pedal now for Stream Deck. And I'm going to be adding that to my Amazon wish list, but I also have some very much more affordable things that are on my Amazon wish list. So please check it out. And also, if you're interested in any of my merch, I would really, really appreciate it. I just sold yesterday, I think, a Reno Reset shirt. Let's go for the Reno Reset. But we're not talking about any more LNC drama today. I've got multiple shows coming up on that. Today we are doing LP history. We had already last time done Spotlight on State Parties. So we're going to hope to get through 2 pages today, and that will finish out the January-February 1974 LP News. But I want to get back, because I was doing Spotlight on California, if you remember, and I'd like to get back to doing some more of the California history. But we need to finish this out, and let me let you know some of the liberty that's coming up. We're going to talk about the god-awful, tone-deaf logo that was approved, not by the entire convention committee. I've been informed by a good friend of mine who's on the convention committee. But, you know, you take responsibility for the committees you're on. The terrible logo, the good one that was created by a member that I'm going to be promoting. I'm going to print my own damn name badge because I am not wearing that Phantom of the Opera name badge. And so we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about a threat that Chris Lucchini just made to the delegates of the state of Arizona. This LNC, oh my God. There's all kinds of stuff. I need to write a list because they do so much bad stuff each day that I just can't even keep up. And I was speaking with my friend Mike Seebeck the other day when I was really in a low spot over just the bullshit that's going on in this party and being very, very worried for the future of this party. As JJ, who's in chat, knows, because he and I had a very frank talk about this. I had said to my friend Mike Seebeck, I go, have you read Watership Down? And he's like, no, unfortunately not. I'm like, damn it, because you won't understand the reference I'm going to make. But I feel like Fiverr right now. I feel like Fiverr, as spastic and as unlistened to as Fiverr. Anyone who's read Watership Down will know what I'm talking about. If you haven't read it, you should. It's a great book. I put off reading it for a long time because I'm like, who wants to read a stupid book about rabbits? It's excellent. And it's like the classic heroic journey. There's actually been like academic papers written about the classic archetypes in the of the heroic journey in Watership Down. But let's move on now to talking about LP news, LP history, but also all super chats matter. Any super chat goes to help my campaign. And yeah, I would super appreciate it. I was hoping to be done with my fundraising by the beginning of 2022, but it takes a lot to run an LNC campaign. And I've raised more than my wildest dreams. But if I'm going for my stretch goal, if I am going to make all the conventions I need to make, I do need to raise more. So super chats, I figured would be a fun way because you're tipping me for information that, you know, you're getting some entertainment value. It's value for value type of thing. And all super chats up through Reno go to my campaign fund, and all of my donors can get a full transparent accounting of how I spend your donations. So let's go now to the LP news. So here's where I'm using my little stream deck. So I hit this little button and it goes to the next scene. Yay! See how it's so, you know, I don't know, I love my little stream deck. And it has my my sound effects on here, like, you know, let me tell you, this vanilla cinnamon, it's like vanilla. If you like rum chata, you'd love this. Oh my God, it's so good. I told Wayne he needs to go to the liquor store tomorrow because every time I say I like something, they stop making it. And this was one of those little impulse buys at the counter. I'm like, you need to buy them all. That is delicious. But it's too delicious. Like, I don't even taste any liquor in it, and I don't feel tipsy, so I have a feeling there's not any liquor in it. That would be pretty funny. Hey, and the little Doc Sexy's theme song played, and there he appears. There he appears. Okay, so the first thing we're going to cover is Executive Committee meets. Now remember, the Executive Committee is what the LNC used to be called. So it says, the LP National Executive Committee met in Denver on November 24th with 11 of the 17 voting members present. About a dozen observers also attended. Here's what's funny. There's 17 voting members now. Now, I know it's changed form over the years, but at least back in 1974, it seems like it was similar to today. They had 17 voting members and a dozen observers. Now, sometimes that's about all we have. Now, maybe we have a little bit more, but a dozen observers is about typical for an LNC meeting. And remember at the last the LNC meeting, that was a digital meeting where they were all doing their Scarlett O'Hara's over, we don't have copies of the affiliation petitions. We have records of it, though, like in LP News. Check this out. Affiliate petitions were accepted. Okay, so you were wondering when your state was. You can document it through LP News, but here's the ones that were accepted, that were documented at this meeting. Florida, Kentucky, Maryland, New Hampshire, Virginia, and Washington State, bringing the total of affiliate state parties to 28. We've since lost Missouri, bringing the number back down to 27. So apparently they dissolved, they lost their organization, plus 4 states still awaiting affiliation. So whether or not we still have the paperwork, we know what was required in the paperwork. We know the requirements for affiliation. They're in the bylaws. You don't need the actual certificate. The people that are getting all up in their feels over this, I think they're just looking to be upset over something rather than being upset over something that like really matters, like the COVID regime. I'll save that for when we talk about the Phantom of the Opera logo, because that was not an accident, believe it or not. National Vice Chairman Ed Clark was chosen to head the Platform Committee in 74, with National Treasurer Pip Boyles chosen Platcom Vice Chairman. Bill Westmiller was appointed to head the Constitution, Bylaws, and Rules Committee. National Secretary Georgianne Trammell was confirmed as Credentials Committee Chairman. I guess they had a very narrow bench then. All the LNC members are heading up all of these convention committees. Winston Duke will serve as co-chairman. Texas's LP appointment of Guy Story Brown as Convention Arrangements Chairman was ratified. Finance Committee Chairman Bob Meyer spoke on fundraising possibilities. He will present a comprehensive report on possible special projects, including a film about the LP. Ooh, I'd like to see a film about the LP in 74. At the meeting of the new executive committee this June, $200 was appropriated to finance legal research by Gary Greenberg to find out more about election laws in every state. $100 was appropriated to Scott Royce to use in fighting federal financing of elections, and $900 was appropriated for magazine advertising. Very, very interesting. Locally, something you might be interested in, Colorado finally came up with some billboard art that didn't get rejected by every billboard company for being too inflammatory. So our billboard should be going up soon in Colorado. I will post a picture of it when I have it. The art was designed by Keith Thompson, who is just talented beyond belief. Okay, the upper right-hand column we had already dealt with because that was a continuation from page 1. So the very first episode in series 18 already dealt with that. So down here at the bottom, anti-socialist parties gain ground in Danish election. The quasi-Libertarian Progress Party polled 15% of the vote in Denmark's national elections last December 4th. But the country is still overwhelmingly socialistic in its political preferences. That's the situation in a nutshell. Oh, I've got a question for you guys. I promised Andrew Colsty that I would ask this on the next few history shows I did. We're trying to figure out where and when and how the porcupine ended up being like the Libertarian mascot. The earliest reference, official reference, I think he was able to find to it was in 1975. He had heard from some people in New York that it actually originated there, but I think I've seen it used earlier in Colorado, and I'm wondering if it maybe sprung up spontaneously in multiple places at different times. So if any of you people who've been around for a while and have heard, may have some information on how the porcupine came to be associated with libertarianism. It may even predate the LP. I don't know. We're trying to figure this out. So if you know any info on that, please send it my way. And Daniel asked what magazines, he wonders what magazines the LP was advertising in. And a lot of these past episodes we did, they talked a lot. They advertised in Human Action, which was popular at the time, Newsweek, Reason. Those are the sorts that they generally did. And I usually try to find those old copies, and I post images here when I do know. They did a lot of magazine advertising back then. I would guess it was probably Reason. God, that just reminds me, I could do a history show each day. But all the stupid LP drama happens. Before the election, 5 parties were represented in the Danish parliament. After the dust settled, the total had risen to 10, with the 5 new parties capturing over 1/3 of the vote. But many of the changes were little more than illusory, as parties across the spectrum were rent by schisms. Biggest gainer was the Progress Party, which gained 28 seats, making it the second largest gain, and it came at the expense of the Conservative Party, also anti-socialist, which dropped from 31 seats in second place to 16 seats in fifth. Before the election, the Conservative Party had held, this is really foreign to us, by the way, here in America, I'm sure as you all know, because we do not have proportional representation, and we certainly don't have 10 political parties in our federal legislature. So before the election, the Conservative Party had held 17% of the seats, with 83% being held by 4 parties of a socialist nature. Ooh, gross. Afterwards, the anti-socialist share had risen to 28%. The new anti-socialist bloc consists of the Progress Party, very loosely equivalent to the LP with 15%. The Conservative Party, roughly equivalent to the GOP with 9%. And the New Christian Party, somewhat similar to the American Independent Party in this country with 4%. In addition, the Social Democratic Party, Socialist, lost its more conservative wing to the New Center Democratic Party, about like our Dems, which picked up 8%. But while the anti-socialists now hold 28% of the seats in the Danish parliament, with the middle of the rotors holding 8%, the socialists and super socialists, that sounds scary, still hold 59%, with 5% being held by parties whose views we have not yet been able to determine. So while the gains of the Progress Party are slightly encouraging, they are no cause for loud hurrahs. Oh, I know what else I wanted to say. I'm sorry I stop, but when I remember things, I got to say it because I forgot to bring my little notepad. I will be doing a show giving an update on what's going on with the LP National Platform Committee. For those of you who didn't know, I was elected, I think the vote was 11-5, to be, again, for the third time in a row, yeah, I'm so unpopular, LNC, the National Platform Committee chair. Ted Brown, I asked them to confirm him as my vice chair. He was the one who got second place. He is an excellent gentleman and will be able to very ably preside in my absence if there's a meeting I need to miss. So I'm glad to confirm Ted Brown is my vice chair. And once again, Omar Ricurio of Florida is secretary. We've worked together before, so he and I, we're very, we're on the same page. I will be posting, and maybe we'll go through it because I'd like to explain some of the parliamentary procedure that went through it, and I'm sure JJ will criticize some of the way I handled things, but I actually don't mind that. It makes me a better parliamentarian and a better chair, a better presiding officer. It's like when Alicia Matson used to just nitpick the hell out of the job I was doing as secretary. I didn't like it at the time, but in hindsight, it made me a much, much better secretary. The grim fact remains that even in a country where the people are far more heavily taxed and regulated than we are, and a multi-party system is accepted, a libertarian-leaning party with a nationally famous figure as its leader was able to pick up only 1/7 of the vote, and half of that was at the expense of the only other anti-socialist party previously in existence. So this was just a grim, I guess, little report here that shows, merely having better election laws like proportional vote, proportional representation, things like that, doesn't guarantee that freedom's going to win. Here is the hard fact, and I don't believe in the saying that libertarians like to say that everyone's a libertarian and just doesn't know it. I think that's an incredibly arrogant and patronizing thing to say. Like we know better what people believe than they do. I don't know, that always has rubbed me the wrong way. I think this is more the actual reality. There are some people who hate freedom and will force you to try to hate it as much as they do. I think that's more to the reality, which is why, even though I call myself an anarchist, and I am an anarchist, but there's the specific branch of anarchy that I hold to that is panarchy, meaning let the freedom haters all gather together and hate freedom together. We can't make them libertarians, and we shouldn't want to. You can't you can't force people, and I don't mean force in the way we use it, like in the non-aggression principle, but I mean, you can't make people. Like, people are going to believe what they're going to believe, and some people don't want to be free. And we as libertarians need to come to grips with that fact. I see something I'm going to need to look up. So now we go to the next page. I'm using my little stream deck here. Nope, we did political perspective already. Book review. Did we do the... Yeah, we did the book review, I believe. No, I'm missing a page. So we're going to have another episode in which we do the book review. Because somewhere I lost that page. We did not do that. But here we're on bits and pieces. So there'll be a mini episode maybe tomorrow. Let's go back to that page where we will cover... I'm not even sure what this page is, but we'll go over it next time. All right, everyone. It's kind of quiet in chat today. Remember, I'm going to give you my pathetic face. Remember that commercial? And I don't even think the guy was actually a Native American. Maybe he was. I've been learning a lot how a lot of the actors in the old Westerns that we see that were playing Native Americans were actually just Italians. And, okay, whatever. But remember that ad with, I'm not sure if he was really a Native American or not, but it pictured a Native American gentleman standing in the middle of the sea of trash with the single tear coming. That was that ad always got me right in the feels. So I'm doing that right now. I'm like, please, super chats. I need to raise money for my campaign. I don't like using the word Indian because it's from a mistake, where the people who first came over here thought they were actually like in India, Indian, and I don't like perpetrating that. It's not a politically correct thing. It's just, I think it's a, historically just, they were geographically ignorant, so they called them Indians that's why I prefer Native American or North American Aboriginal. It has nothing to do with political, correctness. That's what I thought, Libertarian Revolution. That's what I thought. I thought he was Italian. And that was the case at that time. I'm going to put this up here. The Native American in that commercial was not a real Native American. He was an Italian-American actor. And most of, particularly like the spaghetti westerns, all of the Native Americans pictured in there were Italians. They were, and it's like, there are plenty, like and I'm not even saying this like in the woke sense that only a gay person can pay a gay person. I'm just saying, like, you couldn't cast any real Native Americans as Native Americans. You had to cast Italians. I don't know. I just found that weird. I'm not like offended or anything. I just found that weird. But hey, I guess good on the Italians. They got a lot of work. Oh boy. And by the way, the man who raised me, he's not my biological father, but he was the man who raised me, was a very dark Italian. Very olive complexion, dark haired. He probably could have easily played a Native American. All right, bits and pieces. Associated Press does story on LP. Without any prompting from us, that's always good. The Associated Press sent out a national newswire story on the LP, which was carried in newspapers across the country December 27th. So I'm going to look that up. We'll do that with that weird page that I'm missing somehow, and see what this story was about. The story was generally accurate, stating our major stands correctly, unlike the news releases that come out from the LNC today, which don't even state that our actual position is separation of state and education, and noted that the LP has grown substantially since Roger McBride cast his electoral vote for Hospers and Nathan in 72. John Hospers and Ed Clark were quoted in the story, which ran approximately 650 words. Next, the only flourishing vehicle for libertarian organizing. That's what Murray Rothbard called us in the November Libertarian Forum. I might have that issue. We might look at that. Let's take a look at the Libertarian Forum from November of 1973. I'm not sure if I had it, but I'll try to find it. And Daniel gave us some information here. I don't have programmed into my Stream Deck to put comment on screen. I have hide comment, but I don't have put comment up. So it says, Iron Eyes Cody was born Espera or Oscar DeCourty, the son of two first-generation immigrants. Born 1907, died 1999 at the age of 91. So some interesting trivia there. See, I used my little button, my little Stream Deck button. All right, so Murray Rothbard said no other libertarian organization is making a comparable record, which makes anti-party sentiment among libertarians look all the more sectarian and futile. Keep that one handy to lay on your critics next time the lunatic fringe of the movement starts sounding off. David Nolan, I don't really appreciate you calling other libertarians the lunatic fringe. According to the normies, we are all the lunatic fringe. And here's what's cool about these little shots. This is like plastic that is so thick and sturdy, Wayne thought it was glass at first. So we're going to wash these little plastic cups and put them in our camper for when we go camping and want to have shots, so we're not losing any glassware. And because I don't like throwing plastic into the landfill, so if we can reuse it, camping, that's nice. All right, continuing. And now for the anarchists in the crowd. I always like something for the anarchists in the crowd. What's a nice girl like you doing with anarchy? Okay. We have the ever-popular Libersine lapel pin in black enamel. And if you're wondering why that had anything to do with the anarchists in the crowd, no, he's not being racist. Anarchy is generally represented by a black flag, as well as gold plate. Put black and gold together and you got your ANCAPs. Only $1.95, gold plate $2.95. Use the order form, and I want one of these pins so bad. There has to be a bunch of these pins around. One day I'm going to find one in a thrift store. I guarantee it, because most people won't know what the heck it is. Use the order form to get one of these elegant, tasteful pins that let you show your commitment to libertarianism and style by wearing the most widely accepted emblem of the movement. So this is way before the porcupine. The porcupine has yet to be mentioned in an LP News. But it appears very early in Colorado. Great for starting conversations with the uninitiated who will say, "What's that?" when they see it. Thus giving you the opportunity to lay some LP material on them, besides which we make money selling them to you. Buy a bunch. Anyone who knows enough libertarians, and we libertarians know this, we don't wait for someone to go, "Was that?" Wayne is always amazed. We go to a party, we go to a function, he leaves me alone while he goes and gets us a drink or whatever he's getting us, and by the time he gets back, I'm already like full-blown into an anarchy discussion. He's like, "How did you go from zero to anarchy in 30 seconds? It's a talent, my friend. And I think most of us libertarians can either go from, if you're an anarchist, it'll be zero to anarchy, zero to libertarian, whatever you want to call it. Like, we don't need a pin or somebody to ask us. We just know how to get there because we're obsessed. And speaking of pins, the world-famous Hosper's Nathan Button was prominently featured on the cover of the November issue of The Investing Professional. I'm going to need to look for this magazine that I've never heard of. A magazine for people who buy things which have a high potential for appreciation and value. Interesting. HN buttons are already selling for upwards of $10 in some places. That's a lot for that time. Now, don't you wish you bought them when they were 35 cents? And no, we don't have any left. National chairman candidates, please note, we will be carrying write-ups on all candidates for LP national chairman in our May-June issue. We no longer do that anymore. I wish we did. Notice I didn't use the positive anymore. For those of you who are grammar and language geeks, the positive anymore drives me crazy. Anymore should not be used as equivalent for nowadays. Anymore should be used as equivalent for no longer. But for some reason, the positive anymore, which is using it as a synonym for nowadays, has just crept into language, and it's so jarring to me. I don't know if anyone else here is a language geek like that. There's no requirement that you announce at any particular time in order to run, but if you want to be included in this roundup, we'll need your biography and photo by May 1st. To discourage frivolous announcements, there will be a $10 fee for inclusion in the roundup. That's probably a good idea. And Doc Sexy says, so much fringe that you could make a flapper dress, although there's no fee to enter the race. Next title, so you want to change the national platform. No, libertarians never want to change the national platform. I'm going to do the Kermit the Frog, but I don't know anything about that. Do you like that imitation? I knew you liked that imitation. Doing my Rush Limbaugh here. All right. Then send your suggestions to Ed Clark, the Platform Committee Chairman, and Ed will see to it that the other Platcom members are included. And it gives an address, because this is the time of snail mail, where if you had a suggestion, you couldn't just fire it off on Twitter. You had to actually write a letter. An apology to Life member William Fisher of Michigan for misspelling his name in our last two issues, to err as human. And I'm going to have to go correct that on Lpedia because I counted on that spelling. Next. Oh, by the way, today, the reason we were at the liquor store to get these nice little shots is I was out of Grand Marnier, and we went to pick up some because Wayne had a closing today. And not that we're flush with cash or anything even remotely like that. We did have a little expendable income, and we were able to buy our LP Colorado, Grab Liberty by the Horns, convention ticket. Somebody said next year it should be Grab Liberty by the Balls. But it's Grab Liberty by the Horns. And yeah, we bought our convention tickets today. So now is the time for all good men and women to come to the aid of the party, especially if you live in a state where there is currently no LP organization. This is an election year, so whenever possible, we should be getting it together. Interested in being a pioneer? Then write to National HQ and volunteer to get things going where you live. Or how about running for office? Nothing like a campaign to build public awareness of libertarianism. Ask the folks in New York City. And speaking of which, I really need to start thinking about my town council campaign. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun. I need to take some of my medication, and I'm sure my doctors will be horrified to realize that I'm just going to wash down my required prescriptions with some booze. Why the hell not? And Daniel, interestingly, let me put this up on the screen. Daniel, I hit the wrong button, said, no one is writing snail mail letters anymore. They're too busy not sending emails nowadays. I'm glad you didn't go anymore, because that's where the positive anymore would go. Somebody who was going to use the positive anymore would go, they're too busy not sending emails anymore. And I want to pull my hair out when people do that. But you want to hear something interesting? I'm not going to say a lot, but I get regular enough, maybe one every 3 months, which is pretty regular, snail mail letters having to do either with my activism work or LP history. I told you I got that wonderful letter, and I don't have the letter writer's permission, that brought, and I shared portions of it with JJ and DL Cummings, and it literally brought me to tears. I read it, I think, to you guys, and that's what motivates me. It's the things that was said in that letter. Okay, where were we? Oh, Equitarian. What's an Equitarian? Anyone know what an Equitarian is? Okay, I've got to look that up. I've got a Chrome window up here. What's an Equitarian? At first I thought it was equestrian. Is that just like somebody who believes in equality? I mean, if I had to guess, but that's not a word I ever heard before. Equitarian. Day in the life of and it says the horse. Is it something? Equitarians are veterinarians. So it does have to do with horses. What is an equitarian? Improve the health and welfare of horses, mules, and donkeys. Learned a new word today. Never heard of it. So I guess like a humanitarian, and then you have an equitarian. Has anyone else heard that before? That was new to me. Hello, Death. You're always here to remind me that you're right around the corner. Thank you, dear sir. So, Equitarian Associates Conference. New word. On March 28th through 30th, the Equitarian Associates will be holding a conference in, can't pronounce that, Macatawa, Michigan, in conjunction with the Midwest Society for Philosophic Investigations. What is DFW, Death? I don't even know what DFW is. Am I just old? What does DFW mean? And Doc Sexy says, yes, a new word, an equitarian. Okay. And it just talks about this conference they're having. Okay, interesting. And now I want to know what DFW means. Dallas-Fort Worth. Okay, thank you. Because I was like, what the heck does that mean? I'm going, what is, I'm like going through my head. W must mean world and F. Well, we know what F means. So literally, that is what was going through my mind. Humor with a libertarian flavor. Woody Allen's latest film, Sleeper, is one of the funniest movies in years. I don't care for Woody Allen, so I doubt I will think it's one of the funniest movies in years. But maybe I'll watch it now that David Nolan recommended it. And has definite libertarian overtones. Woody plays a born loser who wakes after 200 years to find himself in a future ruled by a mysterious leader who looks vaguely like Robert Lefebvre and gets co-opted by an underground group trying to overthrow the government. Okay, I like it already. At the end, he tells the heroine that political solutions don't work and says that if the rebels succeed, it will be necessary to overthrow their leader in 6 months. A lot of hilarious one-liners and some truly side-splitting sight gags. A completely nonsensical movie, but great fun. Has anyone seen this movie? I've never even heard of it. Advice and Consent, Part 5. The 5th novel in Alan Drury's Advice and Consent series, something else I've never heard of, is out. And in the introduction, he reveals that the 6th is not a sequel, but an alternate ending to the series. And this one, the bad guys win. And if you can put up with Drury's fairly heavy-handed propagandizing, it's not a bad novel and not unfrightening. To get the most out of it, read the earlier books in the series first. The name of the movie, Death, is Sleeper, and it's a Woody Allen film. I might have to check it out now. It's got me intrigued. And so does this novel, this series of novel by Alan Drury called Advice and Consent. I've never heard of that before either. Fildagophile says Sleeper features the Orgasmatron. Hold on. You've definitely got Doc Sexy interested if there's an Orgasmatron. A note on membership renewals and address changes. Once again, may we remind you, yes you may. When you renew your membership, you will not receive a new card. Cheapskates. But let me tell you something. Oh, see, Daniel says it's a cult classic. I never heard of it, but I'm not much of a movie buff. I'm too busy. Let me tell you a funny story about renewal cards. They send you a new card each year now with the LP. I refuse the new cards. I don't want the chicken on a stick. I've kept my original card, which even still has my before I was married to Wayne name on it, because I hadn't legally changed my name yet. I think it still says Karen DeSantos on it. And it was before I used my middle name, because it has Lady Liberty on it. And I do not like the chicken on a stick. I do not like it, Sam I Am. I do not like green eggs and ham. And please, when you change your address, notify us in advance if possible, and don't bury your notification in a letter. I've seen the letters that libertarians used to write. They were like 15 pages long and like tiny little, I'll show you some. You'll laugh. I got married to Wayne, but I didn't change my name right away. I got married to Wayne. I'm terrible about this. I know it's always the guys who are supposed to forget anniversaries. I think 2014. Our anniversary just passed and we both forgot it. Wayne, we both forgot our wedding anniversary. Because we just went to the courthouse, and I wish we didn't even do that, because we got a good thing going, baby. Let's get the state involved. Don't bury your notification in a letter on the back of an order form. Use a separate postcard, or we may overlook the information. Libertarian Revolution says, geez, you should know your anniversary. Why? I'm not big on stuff like that, you know. Then, you know, the LP News is published bi-monthly, and Tanstaffel and all that. So that is that for this episode, but apparently we missed a page. Got probably swallowed by the printer or something. And, yeah, so there's a couple things in here I said I would look up, and I will get that information. We'll have one more bonus episode. It will be bonus episode 18. This was C, so 18D. And then we'll move on maybe to some other history, because we have through February, though we're already partly through February. And that will be that for this evening. Unless you guys, so Libertarian Revolution says that's almost as bad as not knowing your birthday. I know my birthday, but I often forget it when it's coming up. It's not a big deal to me. I forgot Wayne's birthday. Isn't that bad? He had to tell me the next day. I'm just not good with that shit. I forget my Libertarian birthday, too. I mean, I know what it is, but I forget it when it comes up. It's September 17th, 2014. So let me think. Were we married when I became a Libertarian? That'll let me know when we got married. I'm pretty sure I was. We got married when I was still living in a different area in Castle Rock, and I became a Libertarian in this house. So we might have actually been married in 2012 or 2013. Yeah, the chicken on a stick does look like he's flipping the bird, and once you see that, you cannot unsee it. I don't know my age, Death. I stopped keeping track at 25. I always have to ask Wayne how old I am. I don't pay attention to that shit. Alrighty, guys. So that will be it. I was supposed to do this the other night, but I'm not. I might go upstairs and eat something. This is the problem. I went upstairs and ate something last time and got too tired. But I promised my patrons that I would record that thing from Radicals from Capitalism today, and I have to keep that promise. So I think I am going to go upstairs, eat something, and then come back and record that, but that's for patrons only. I thank you guys for spending this time with me. I do hope to be recording tomorrow and the next day and blah, blah, blah. Even though Tara Sisto said I'm a clown. And that's why no one watches my show. I still get more views than LPTV, bitches. Which is a shame. That's a shame, actually. If I wanted a big channel, I know how to get a big channel. And I'll tell you how not to get a big channel. Specialize on something as obscure as LP history. But I do it because I enjoy it. I do things primarily because I enjoy it, because if I enjoy it, that passes on to you. People know when the host isn't enjoying something, and I think you guys can genuinely sense that this is something I love, and then it makes it enjoyable for you. So, all right, got my little gavel here from 1950 something. History is adjourned, and I will see you guys. I'm going to use my little thing here for the next scene. I will see you guys tomorrow, unless I see you tonight, in the patron-only content. Love you, mi guapas de libertad.
What you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians, or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business.